I discovered a dark secret in my parents' basement. Now I'm on the run. Everything was fine till the local kids started going missing. My family lives in a rich area. Both my parents are very successful stockbrokers and money has never been a concern for us. They retired a couple of years ago and now generally spend their time socialising with the locals in our area. My parents are both quite charming and easygoing, and generally speaking, they've been fairly popular as long as I can remember. They're considered pillars of the community, often hosting dinners and get-togethers and all sorts of little events attended by all the elites of the area, so I've become fairly well acquainted with other rich people who live here. I generally spend those little events pulling faces at my friend Alex, silently joking about how stupid we thought everyone at these parties were. There's been a sudden spike in the number of missing persons cases involving children in our area in the last 2 years. 7 children missing. My parents, like any parents would be, were worried for me and told me all the usual things. Don't go anywhere alone. Get home before dark. Keep your parents informed about your whereabouts. You know, all the standard stuff. I wasn't worried. Fairly normal for a child, you know. I didn't know any of the missing kids, so the news reports just seemed not real. Practically like stories. The parental warning seemed irrelevant. Who knew if whoever was snatching kids was still at it? And besides, surely nobody would attack me and Alex if we went everywhere together. Safety in numbers, like my parents said. That was our reasoning for deciding to have one final race that evening. Even as the sun had started to set on the sky, we took off running, Alex in front, me just behind him, straining to catch up with his bubblegum pink t-shirt. I kept telling him it was a terrible colour, nobody else wore it, but he never listened to me. We sprinted to the tree line that represented the finish at top speed. I was really pushing myself, trying to beat Alex. So when the black-robed figure stepped out from a tree right in front of me and tripped me over, my momentum made sure I had no chance. I went flying face first into the dirt, completely in shock over what had just happened, before fear really started to seep in. We'd been idiots. They had us now. We were probably both going to die somewhere around here, and our bodies would be on coroner's tables right afterwards. As the terror mounted, I scrambled to my feet and spun around, only to see nothing. The black-robed figure was gone, but so was Alex. When I told my parents about what happened, they went ballistic. How could I have stayed out so late, disobeying one of the very few, very simple rules that I should have been listening to? Never go out in the dark. Surely I had to shoulder some of the blame for his disappearance. My parents reported it, and I was questioned by the cops. I gave them answers to the questions they asked as best as I could, enough for them to launch into a search and rescue for Alex. I participated in the search, but we couldn't find him. Nobody ever found him again. 2 years passed. We were about to move to a different neighbourhood, so we were packing and boxing up all of our stuff. My parents were both upstairs, reminiscing over an old photo album that Mum had found a few hours ago. I started putting away books into a large box labelled book. I looked at the box, and it looked far too empty. I know we had more books. Then I remembered the rest of it was probably in the basement. My dad generally kept the basement locked, but on this day, because we were moving out, the door was unlocked. The door creaked open, and I stepped inside. There were a couple of neatly stacked rows of boxes right in front of me, so I went to go and pick one of them up. A slightly discoloured patch of the wall caught my eye as I leaned over the row of boxes. I tapped at it with a couple of fingers to check if it was damp, but it was perfectly dry. When I tapped it, the discoloured part of the wall slid outwards, revealing itself to be a secret compartment of sorts. I was intrigued. What secrets were my parents keeping in here? I picked up the little box in the compartment and opened it, and at that moment, my life changed forever. Inside the box were little Ziploc plastic bags, each containing what looked like a strip of cloth. As I picked one up and opened it, a few strands of hair fell out, along with a photograph. I looked at the photograph, trying to remember where I'd seen it before, and then I remembered. The news broadcast from 2 years ago. It was one of the missing kids. Ignoring the absolutely sickening feeling in my gut, I rummaged through the Ziploc bags and then I saw the one which confirmed it. The bubblegum pink that I'd never seen anyone else wear, the brown hair, and the picture of Alex. My parents had abducted the missing kids 2 years ago. With shaking fingers, I picked up the strands of hair on the ground that I could see and stuffed them back into the Ziploc bags. I put everything back in place and ran. My parents were still upstairs and I heard Dad yell and ask if I was done boxing up the books. I said yes, and he came down and looked into the box. He came to the same conclusion I had. This box was nowhere near full enough. Inwardly cursing myself for not taking the books in the basement, I asked him what should we do. He said he'd go to the basement and bring out the rest. My father is a smart man. He saw my face, already pale, drained completely of colour. He looked at the box of books and saw the white spots where all the chalk from the basement had gotten on the flaps. I saw him putting two and two together. I heard him yell for my mother as I ran out of the house. I heard him yell in frustration that I'd taken the car keys. I drove for what felt like hours, somehow keeping myself under the speed limit, drove over the state border, ditched the car, got a rental and a motel. I can't go to the police. I have no evidence, and accusing one of the richest men in the state of being responsible for one of the worst crimes in the last decade of the state would just get me laughed at and make it way easier for them to find me. I don't know what to do, but for now, I'm looking over my shoulder. My boyfriend has been acting terrified of me since we got back from the Appalachian Trail. I don't know what I did wrong. I need to write this down because I feel like I'm losing my mind, and putting it somewhere outside of my head might help. Dane and I have been together for 4 years. We're the kind of couple that finishes each other's sentences, that has a whole private language of inside jokes and shorthand. I know him better than anyone else in the world. I say that because I need you to understand that when I tell you something is wrong with him, I'm not being paranoid. I know this man. We got back from a section hike on the Appalachian Trail 11 days ago. We did about 200 miles over 3 weeks, starting in Virginia. It was Dane's idea. He'd always wanted to do a long stretch, and I'd never done anything longer than a weekend trip. I was nervous. He was so excited he could barely sleep the week before we left. The first 2 weeks were incredible. Hard, but incredible. We fell into a rhythm. We'd hike until late afternoon, set up camp, cook whatever dehydrated thing we'd packed, and then we'd lie on top of our sleeping bags, talking until one of us fell asleep mid-sentence. I felt closer to him out there than I ever had. No phones, no obligations, just the two of us and the mountain. It was the 3rd week when things started to feel off. I don't know how to explain it, except to say that the woods changed. Not visibly, everything looked the same trail, the same trees, but the quality of the air felt different, thicker somehow, like the atmosphere had shifted by a degree you couldn't measure, but you could feel it in your chest. Dane felt it too. He got quieter. He'd always been the one pointing things out to look at the ridge, look at that bird. But he stopped. He just hiked, eyes forward, jaw set. On the 4th night of that week, I woke up in the middle of the night and he wasn't in the tent. I found him standing about 20 feet away at the tree line, just standing there looking into the dark. I called his name and he turned around so fast it startled me. He looked, I don't know, not scared exactly. More like he'd just been caught doing something. He said he'd needed to use the bathroom. We went back to the tent, and he didn't sleep after that. I could feel him lying awake next to me all night. We finished the hike 2 days later and drove home. I thought once we were back in our apartment with our things and our routines, he'd return back to himself. He hasn't. He flinches when I touch him. Not every time, but enough that I've started hesitating before I reach for him. Last week, I came up behind him whilst he was doing dishes and put my hands on his shoulder and he made a sound, not a word, just a sound, and stepped away from me. He apologised immediately, said he was just jumpy lately and blamed it on bad sleep. He's not sleeping. I hear him up at all hours, but when I get up to check on him, he always comes back to bed right away, says he's fine and lays there stiff as a board until I fall asleep. He started locking the bedroom door at night. we share a bedroom, and we share a bed. For the past 6 days, I've been waking up on the couch with no memory of getting there, and the bedroom door locked from the inside. Dane would always claim he has no idea how I ended up in the living room. He says I must be sleepwalking. He says it gently, the way you say things to someone that you're frightened of. I asked him last night to please just tell me what was wrong. I sat across from him at the kitchen table and I asked him to look me in the eye and tell me what I had done. He looked at me for a long time. His jaw worked. I watched him decide something. He said, "You haven't done anything. I've just been in my head since the trail. I'm sorry." He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. He let go after less than a second. I went to the bathroom after dinner and stood at the sink for a long time. I looked at myself in the mirror. Normal? Tired? A little thinner than before the hike, but normal. I turned the tap on and splashed water on my face. When I looked up, I was smiling. I hadn't smiled, I wasn't smiling, but my reflection was, for just a second, just long enough for me to see it wearing an expression I hadn't put there, wide and still and patient. Then it was just my normal face again. I told myself it was the lighting, the water in my eyes, but I've been thinking about the 3rd week on the trail, how the air changed, how I have almost no clear memories from those last 2 days of hiking. Just flashes a strange taste in my mouth. A sound like something large moving parallel to the trail, just past where the trees got thick, waking up outside the tent once with dirt under my fingernails and no explanation. I've been thinking about how Dane stood at the tree line that night, how he looked when he turned around, the sound he made when I touched his shoulder. I've been thinking about the mirror. I've been telling myself I need to ask him what he saw on that trail, what he's been seeing since we got back. But there's another part of me, quiet, patient, underneath that doesn't want him to answer. That part doesn't want him to say it loud. I don't know what that means. I don't know if I should be scared of what's happening to Dane or scared of something else entirely. I just know that last night I dreamed about the woods, the smell of them, the dark. And when I woke up, I was hungry in a way I'd never been before, a way I don't even have words for. I don't know how to end this post because I don't really know what I'm even asking. I guess I just needed someone else to know. I want to send a child back to his parents that I had kidnapped, but they don't want him back. My wife and I lost our child 2 years ago and we are still hurting from it, and life has never been the same. Everything just feels grey and looks grey. Then one day I saw a child with his parents and he reminded me of me and my wife's child. The temptation to take him was in both of our minds, and we kept bumping into this child and his parents so many times. Then one day when his parents weren't watching, I grabbed him and ran so far. I kept telling him everything was going to be okay. When my wife saw him, she too burst into tears. The outer appearance of this child might have seemed angelic, but this child was a monster. This child didn't just suffer from bad behaviour, he was evil. He was peeing all over the place and breaking things. He would find animals outside and eat them while mocking our deceased son. He is nothing like our sweet boy. He knew we wanted to return him, and so he gave his house number to his real parents. We apologised to his parents and explained to them of our deceased son. We also asked if we could bring back their boy to them, which we had kidnapped. The parents enthusiastically said no, and that they didn't want their evil, atrocious boy back. They also threatened to send us back to prison if we tried to send him back to his parents, and they also said that they were going to move house and change their phone numbers so that he could never find them again. I have a feeling the boy knew this would happen, and his eyes have turned fully red now. Sometimes we find him eating large animals, like dogs and cats. What have we done?